We begin with new details on the downing of a U.S. military aircraft in the Middle East. In a Truth Social post moments ago, President Trump wrote, Iran is responsible for shooting down that helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz, adding that the U.S. must respond to this attack. U.S. Central Command has confirmed 2 crew members on that plane were rescued yesterday by unmanned drone boats. They are now in stable condition. This came just hours after President Trump said a deal with Iran to open up the strait and end Iran's nuclear program was imminent.
We're in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal that will not allow in any way, shape, or form nuclear weapons.
But tensions between Iran and Israel are raising questions about the possibility of that deal. Over the weekend, the 2 countries exchanged strikes for the first time since a ceasefire was reached back in April. NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube joins me now. So, Courtney, the president now alleging that Iran shot this helicopter down. Again, the crew, thankfully, safely rescued. What do we have that is confirmed about what exactly happened, this amazing rescue, and what have we heard from Iran on all of this?
Yeah, so I just spoke with a U.S. official who confirmed what President Trump posted on social media, that in fact the current belief, the current indication is that this Apache was downed by Iranian fire. The belief it was an Iranian drone that may have brought this Apache down. Now, as you mentioned, there were 2 pilots or 2 individuals, 2 U.S. soldiers on that aircraft. You can see it there. It's one of the Army's smaller helicopters. They both were able to get out of that aircraft, even though it went down in the water in the Gulf of Oman, and they were rescued. What's really remarkable about this rescue, Vicky, is for the first time ever, there was what's known as an unmanned surface vessel, basically what you and I might call a drone boat or an unmanned boat, that actually located these 2 soldiers and was actually able to save them or rescue them out of the water. The boat then moved them to another location, again, unmanned, took them to another location where they were picked up by a helicopter. They're now both receiving medical treatment. A U.S. official telling us that while they both have some injuries, they're not considered life-threatening or that serious, but they both were injured during the course of this accident, Vicky.
Well, we are glad that they were rescued. No additional lives put in harm's way. Courtney, before I let you go, do we have a sense, anything more from the White House now that the president has put out this Truth Social post in terms of the response from the U.S.?
Yeah, President Trump is vowing to respond in his social media post. The question is, what could that look like? So what we have seen in the past several weeks is there has been this back and forth between the U.S. military and primarily the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, as opposed to the more conventional Iranian military. And what we've seen is this series of back and forth where we've seen the IRGC fire off surface-to-air missiles, drones, these small, fast attack boats, and when they have in any way threatened the U.S. military or even shipping there, the U.S. has often responded with strikes in the southern part of Iran, primarily along the coastal areas, against the Iranian military.
All right, Courtney Kube, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.